Let me share my screen here. I've went ahead and logged into the consortium collection just so we can take a look at things through the eyes of what you have access to. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Connie Bowman. I'm one of the account executives. I work with all of the districts in the state of Michigan here at OverDrive. And so what I'm sharing is my Sora screen. For those of you that may not be familiar, Sora is available through browser or app. So it really just depends upon the device you're using and your personal preferences. The interface is going to look identical no matter which option you choose. So everything I'm showing you today, for the most part, in terms of just the navigations, are going to be identical. Obviously, displays can change just based on personal preferences, size of device, but very easy to support from that perspective. The very first time that you log into Sora, you're going to land on this Explore page. And this is essentially just, I always call it the soft nudge to find some content that you're interested in borrowing or checking out. Now, I know you all play a little bit more of a support role, so it may also just be a way for you to see the resources that are in the collection. A couple things to mention. I am logged in as a staff member today, so that means I'm seeing all books, which is going to be similar or mimic what each of you potentially see in the collection. Just know that the collection does content filtering. So what that means is that when an elementary student logs into the platform, they might not be seeing, or they're not going to see, all of the books that we're seeing. So for presentation purposes, for the purposes of you all being logged in, just know that you're seeing all of the books in the collection. What's happening on this Explore tab is driven by each school and or district's preferences. So there is content that is curated at the consortium level, but also just know that every school and district potentially has the ability to customize this. So what we're seeing here is the consortium curation. If you're out working in one of the schools, it may not look the same because they can choose to customize this. So you can see that there's a featured title on the very top of the screen here. And then we can just start scrolling through different curated lists of content. So we see things like back to school, manga, Hispanic Heritage Month, the summer I turned pretty Rita likes. There's just different types of content that is curated out here. It's your lucky day. These are all books that are available, no holds, no renewals. They've got some great read along content here, bearing in mind that Sora supports ebooks, audiobooks, read along titles, graphic novels. So those are the types of content that you might find, as well as in our collection, we do have the all access comics package and magazines. Comics and magazines are all simultaneous use collections. They do not count against the overall checkout on the individual user. So I can have 3 books from the consortia collection, plus I could have a comic, plus I could have magazines, because they're not counting in my overall checkouts. These are all specifically vetted collections for school districts only. So you can see there's over 80 magazines in here. There's also over 1,900 comics altogether, but they are vetted by content access level. I lost my train of thought for a second there. So elementary package, middle school package, high school package is really what that means. So this gives you an idea of kind of what that overall content looks like. If you were working, let's say, out in one of the elementary buildings and you wanted to mimic what an elementary user is seeing, you could set your preference to just juvenile, and that would then filter this to just see those books that are rated juvenile. So you're going to see my screen is going to change a little bit here just in terms of what books are available. If I also scroll a little bit further down, you're going to see my comics just went, is drastically reduced, as well as my magazines. So you can kind of see what that looks like. You can also multi-select on preferences. So if you wanted to be working with a middle schooler, but you wanted to see all juvenile and all young adult materials, you could apply those preferences as well. So in our school collection, that juvenile rating is elementary, that young adult rating is middle school, and that general adult is what we identify our high school content, simply because we only have those three audience levels to work with when we're identifying books and collections. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and just clear all of my filters here so we don't run into us maybe not seeing something. You also can always search for an individual book. So if I wanted to read Harry Potter today, I could go in and I could say, show me all of the Harry Potter books that are in the collection. You can see there's 16 ebooks and 7 audiobooks. You can see that headphone identifies anything that is audio. And you can see there's lots of opportunity for us to borrow books here. You can also see that there's some options for place a hold. So when I see that place a hold button, it just simply means someone is using the book. We only own one copy of this book, for example. There's one copy in use, there's one person waiting. So I just hit my button. Sorry about that. So I always just identify this does worst case math, right? So if everybody keeps the book for the full amount of time, it's a 2-week lending period. I'm going to wait 4 weeks if I go ahead and jump in line here. Somebody returns the book early, the dynamics of that could change. And then that borrow feature is very straightforward. That's just going to allow us to borrow the title. It's going to automatically download that content to be available to us online or offline. I'm not going to take any of the consortium books today, at least in this particular example, just because I don't want to take away from any checkout. But you can see here that you do get some copy information on these titles. So there's 48 copies available of the 52 total. And Harry Potter just did a recent change to their lending options. And so many folks did take advantage of that. Alternately, if I jump into a book that I know is always available, this is one of those simultaneous books. This essentially means anybody can borrow this book an unlimited number of times. So you're always going to get that copy information here when you select the title. And if I did, in fact, want to borrow this book, what's going to happen when I select that is it's automatically taking me into the content. This is an audio book, so it's going to let me start listening. Inside our ebooks and audiobooks, the upper right-hand corner of the screen, as well as our platform, that's where we're going to find all of our individual reader preferences. So Sora really allows every user to customize their experience depending upon what my needs might be. The first thing here in audio is allowing me to speed up the playback or reduce that playback if I need to. So I do have that option. I can also, and these are all sticky settings, so they're going to stay in place unless the user goes in and changes otherwise. So if I reduce that to the 0.90, every single audiobook I use is going to open to that unless I go in and change that otherwise. Audiobooks do still allow us to create bookmarks and take notes, which is a key feature inside of our ebooks as well. The differentiator inside of our audiobooks is that we're not able to capture text. So we're just simply identifying a note if we're utilizing that feature inside of our ebooks. So upper right-hand corner is where all of those features exist. I'm going to get an achievement because I borrowed an audiobook. So you can see it's going to give me that user achievement here as well. If I go back to this main area, I believe this is always one of my simultaneous books. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump into this title as well, just so we can get an idea here of what this might look like in just inside of another type of book or piece of content, if you will. So I can open this up to single page, or I can open this like an open book display. And you can see here, I do get some additional preferences that are available to me. Because this is a fixed picture book, I can't change my text scale, but inside of my ebooks, I can do that. I can change my background lighting. I also can go in and search for something inside of that book should I be interested. And this is also where I can get into those highlight and define options as well. So if I did want to get inside that text and ask for a definition or create a note, you could potentially do that as well. I mentioned that upper right-hand corner also just inside the overall Sora platform. This is where I can identify some of these additional user preferences. I can turn on my open dyslexic font so that it is engaged throughout my general navigation in Sora. So you can see it's weighting the words towards the bottom. If I needed to get into high contrast mode, I could do that here as well. I can also change the basic navigation of Sora from a language perspective. This does not change my content. My content still has to be purchased in the appropriate language, but you can see there are several that are supported here, things like French, German, Italian, Russian, Spanish. These are all options. Again, these are also all sticky settings. Right below that, I can also get into some of these additional just preferences or features. If I want to show the shortcut, I can do that. I also can get into my holds information. And then last, right below that, I also do have some options for my downloads. In most instances, we're just going to automatically allow those books to download so we don't have to think about it. And then our reading preference is most commonly inside of Sora. So there are some preferences that are located again in that upper right-hand corner as you go through Sora. And then you can see here as well, how many loans do I have? We can have up to 3 books checked out and 3 books on hold. I've already borrowed 2 of those in the consortium. So I'm only going to be allowed to borrow 1 more book at this time. And then I'll just touch on this briefly. The Add a Library is used in many school districts in the state of Michigan, where they have engaged in a partnership with their local public library. So if a student is in that space, they could go in and they could select and tell Sora what is their local public library. I'm trying to think of one right now that is popular in your area or state. I'm just going to go with Dearborn because I'm fairly certain that is. Does the Midwest Collaborative sound familiar to you, Judy?
Yes.
Just trying to, I think this might be one. I should have looked at that before I jumped on here. My apologies. But what happens there, just so you're kind of mindful, great, is if school districts are using this, then they're going to see their school district listed, Ann Arbor. You can see they're out here. You can also just keep scrolling and see that there may be other school district listed in this drop down, where it's just going to prompt them to use their school credential versus their public library card. So I'm not going to click on that because we'll all get kicked out of Sora because I don't have a school credential, but that's how the Public Library Connect works. Alternately, if you're just a patron and you have a library card, let's see from Albion District Library, you can see it prompts for those credentials. So once they've identified their credential, they're only going to get asked that initially into Sora. And then if you have added that library, essentially Sora now knows I'm part of the Wayne County Consortium. I also have library credentials in this Midwest Consortium. So then if I go and search for that Harry Potter title again, I'm going to first see all those Harry Potter books in the Midwest, or sorry, in the Wayne County collection. And then right below that, I'm going to see all of those same responses in my public library. So it allows me to see where can I get to those titles the quickest, and or it could also open up lots of opportunity for additional books. So if I open up this search to a wider perspective, I can see if I wanted to go in and just say, show me all the read along titles that are available, let's say at the lower grade levels, I could run that search and it's going to bring back all of the books that are available, not only in the consortium collection, but also in the public library collection. So you can see I get 535 books that are available. Again, we're going to see a handful of them in the consortium here, and then we're going to see all of those books that are available in our public library. So it can potentially just bring a lot more resources to our students. That's just one very brief example. I could go in and say, show me all the audio books that are in the collection just across, again, the public library and the school collection. I'm getting over 6,200 audio books that are available just by running that search. So you're going to have access to a lot more books. Just keep in mind that this Explore tab is only showing us what we've curated, not all of the books in any collection. You're going to have to use that search button to really be able to see all of the books in the collection. So if I wanted to say, just show me like all of the ebooks that are available, that's how I would want to perform that search, because my main page is just what the library and or school district has curated. I get asked this question a lot, so I like to just give it a little bit more attention recently, because you can see again here, when I just ask for all of the ebooks, I'm getting over 22,000 ebooks because I'm searching the consortium collection and my public library just in this example. So in most cases, it is literally thousands and thousands of books that are being made available when we add something like a consortium and or a school or district collection plus the public library. So lots of resources there. You can take this a little bit further and say, just show me the ones that are in just the public library. So you can see I'm getting over 16,000 books just with this library example. So that's exploring the collection. After I've borrowed books and I pop back into Sora again, it's going to take me into the home page, which is essentially going to show me any books that I've borrowed, any notes or highlights that I've created, any recently defined words that I've identified in the platform as well. So this becomes that main landing page. And I apologize because I'm trying to show you the consortium as well. My landing page is a little blank here, but you're just going to be able to click into any of those notes and highlights or any of those recently defined words right from that main page. The middle orb is essentially the last book, the last place you left off. So Sora always syncs across devices. So if I were to jump on my phone right now and I clicked on this reading orb, it's going to take me right back into that book, last place I left off. So Sora is going to sync across devices. It's also just a really nice shortcut to get back into that last book. So a lot of times students and educators may use this as they're popping in and out of different class periods. If they have a few minutes of free reading time, it's just a really nice way to jump back right into that last book that I was reading in 2 clicks. The shelf is going to show you first any loans. So you can see the 2 books that I borrowed. You can see these books have already downloaded. I don't have to be online to access these books for the rest of the lending period. You can see my percent of progress in these books as well. The next tab out here is the holds. So if you have placed a hold on some book, you're going to see that hold listed out here as well. And you can always get to that clock, like I showed earlier, how much time is remaining for me from a holds perspective. Students can create lists and identify any book into those lists. So if I go back to this Explore page, and I just simply select this book, you can see where I always have the borrow option. I also always have the read or listen to sample, and then I have the add a list. So users can create any list. So in my personal Sora account, I have probably 25 or 30 different lists that I've created. I can just tag books into those lists. I may not be able to borrow a book right now, but if I do want to flag that to borrow later, or just something that this is my favorite book, I don't ever want to have to search for it, I just want it available to me quickly, you can put that on any wish list and or any new list that you've named. So if you said create a new list, you can simply just type in the name of what you want that to look like, and then you can save that and add the book to the list. So if I just wanted to put that on my wish list, I can select wish list, and now this book is tagged to my wish list. And if I go back to the shelf, you're going to see that this book is on my wish list. When I added it, if I wanted to take it off my wish list, I could just simply click this red check mark, and now it's removed from my wish list. The very last button in Sora is the Me tab. And so this is designed where you're going to see your specific information. What's the total number of books that you've opened? What's your total reading time? What's your average time per book? And then you can see all of the different digital badges that are available in Sora based on how you're utilizing the collection. Right now in the active school year, we're showing 30 digital badges. We'll have an additional badge that opens up when we run into the summer reading program, where if students are engaged in those summer reading books, they can receive that additional digital badge. Right now, that's not active, so we're just seeing those 30 options. So this is where you can see all those different ways that I can gauge in Sora. I can achieve those badges based on my utilization of the platform. I do also have an option here that I can choose all time, or I can customize this. So if I just wanted to see what I've done today, I could do that. Again, I'm just in to show you the consortium collection here. So not my actual stats that we're seeing today for presentation purposes. So that is really the overall information regarding Sora. Again, I'm in the browser today, so everything I'm showing you is using the browser interface. If you were to download the Sora app, you're going to see the same icons on the Sora app as well. That home is where it's going to default you to. The option to explore your collections is next, and so you can see anything again that's curated out here. Be sure and remember to use your search option to see all of the books in the collection. And then also you can use this preferences button if you're wanting to reduce what you're seeing, if you're working with an individual student and or user for support purposes, you may want to reduce what you're looking for. It also can be a great opportunity if you are looking for something specific. I really need to look for an audiobook for a user today. You can also use those preferences for other things. The shelf just identifies all of those books that I've either borrowed or have on hold. It also will pull up an historical tab. So that history, here are those books that I've borrowed. Again, in a real user scenario, you're going to see a lot more information out here regarding my overall usage in Sora. And then that Me tab is specific to me as a reader in the platform for me to be able to see my individual stats as well as my digital achievements inside of Sora. It's quite a bit of information to throw at you in about 25 minutes. What questions can I answer?